Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the stream. What's up? How are you doing? So, okay. Wait, messed up. Hello, hello, hello. What's up? I'm back with my iced tea and, you know, stuff. Uh, so, today's agenda, I'm gonna start off with, uh, some puzzles and do some practice and, dive into a 10-minute arena. um Forgot to say. Yeah, it's fine. It was just categories. Okay. Yeah. Then after the chess string, to the Jordan Peterson we play and see what else he has to say. uh Last time we watched 51 minutes of it, and he was just started to fumble because he doesn't have a lot to say. Yeah, let's see how much he fumbles today. Yeah, or if he has some cool thing to say. If he is able to justify even 1% of the fan base he has. Let's see. I have been avoiding watching any other reactions to it or anything, because I want to see it with my own eyes instead of somebody telling me in my ears what I'm supposed to be thinking. Come on, just it's like watching a reaction of it. A word kind of change, make it might make it worse, might make my judgment worse. Oh my god, General Sim, what's up? Hello, Ehal, welcome to the stream. Thank you for the follow. Begin with some puzzles. Table. Anyway, it is iced tea. Okay, now what the hell? Why would I drink? And also, it's Afternoon. But that is the really long. Can go there. So this is taken. The whole can go. Yeah, that was all I had to do. What? As a promoter point, I can go there. He would go there. Then can go there. He'll try to take there or something. Okay, let's see. What? Wait a second. I could have done that. That I had to do. Why is the music? Oh, just maybe checkmate patterns. Some quick practice. It gives pyramid, pyramid. This was protected. That's why I did that. You would take it, and then I do this. This is a double check, so he won't take it. Now I can do this because it's protected and covers it all. Anderson's mate. There's another Anderson's mate. Another Anderson's mate. This was pinned, so he couldn't take me. Now I do this. Protected, dovetail mate, and protected, and bum 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 bum. This one goes there. This one goes there. Bum, ba-dum, bum, bum, bum. Dovetail mate. I do this. That's taken. Do this. Swallow's tail. Stopping king from escaping. Epaulet. Stopping king from escaping. he didn't take this because I could have done this. That would have been a checkmate. Now this is two, a Paulette mate. Just go there. And this is a pawn mate. This is completely taken. I just have to check him. This is also and escape from anywhere. I can just this and check. Suffocated, Gargo's mate. King just have one escape that I took away. Another Gargo's mate. This is a double check, and this is. That's it. Come on, man. You really have to sacrifice your queen. Max Lunge. Max Lunge is basic mate. That's Ready is mate. Ready is mate. No. Okay. This is a Blackburn. Ready is mate. Not too difficult. Just this is also. This is king. Just can't do much shit. This is box something. Kill box mate. This is a triangle mate. And this is a Vukovic mate where the knight has to be here and the rook has to be here and the rook has to be protected by something. Here this is bishop, so I do this. No. Another. I need my horse in this line to bring this. I can go there. He would go there. Then that is useless. He would just, I don't know. Can't do much about this. He would go there. Then it won't be Vukovic, and that won't be. So I'll go here and there. This will protect this. Now I can come here, protected by the king. And I do this. He would escape there. This is Vukovic. Anyway, let's. Okay. There's a rapid arena going on. I have one. No reason. It's just an opening that I use. It's all. I can do this and kind of scare him. Yeah, I don't have much to do here. Even if it takes it, I can take it. I have my horse up and ready. Take arms. Yeah, man, come on. You are the guy who is left with a horse and a bishop now. You are the weird guy now. I got that, So nobody can come here to check my king. Yes, like I said, he's planning to go here. Idiot. Goes. Oh, no. Oh, dead. This Okay. He's trying to push through here and, do something. But like I said, at the end of the day, hmm, it's actually 22. Are you? Are you? I think I have another one. Science. मैथ्स मैथ्स नहीं लिया था, बायोलॉजी पढ़ा था. Cool. Want to be, you know. Okay. Let's see if. ओके ओके, तुमने नया नया बना दिया है. Motherfucker. Oh my god. Okay. Know what? You want to play that? Play that. I have done something. He doesn't know. Gesture doesn't know what I have done. Mm. Oh my god, Chester. Oh my god, Chester. Oof. That is, I would say, you know, that's just your opinion. But it doesn't matter what you take. You are still going to be at the end find yourself in a job that doesn't. Okay, I think you had something. You will have to run here, run here. At the end of the day, he will have to chase things that are not his own, but just a creation of his mind. You know what? Let's begin. Yeah, that was a terrible decision, I would say. I messed up. I messed up a bit. I think I really messed up. Okay, okay, okay. Okay, now I think you messed up. Because I don't think you should have let me You could have just sacrificed a rook, okay? You could have just sacrificed a rook and I would have taken, I had to take it. And you are losing everything. You had a great mate and few moves. Or just extreme advantage. You just gave it all up. And for what? For what did you give it up for? Fame, fortune, love, none of it. You did it to save your own queen. You did it to save your own. You did it to save your own rook. Why would you? Uh, uh, uh. Okay. I didn't see that before. I would be honest, I didn't see. But good thing I took my time. King's Gambit, my friend. You know what? Let's. Oh wait, why did I do that? I didn't have to. Oh my god, this fuck all game, man. It's... Okay, yeah, I'm losing this. I'm definitely losing this. If I win, if I with any possibility win, it means this guy is one of the stupidest player. Mhm. Come on, man, do this. I know you want to. Well, if you don't want to, it's okay. I'll do this instead. Okay, you know what? I changed my mind. I knew you were gonna do this. I knew you would. That's when I made you do this. I made you. Come on. Don't do. Damn it. Take it. Take it. You want it? Take it. You want it? Just take it. Let's see how you win with this. Huh? Let's see how you get through this on your own. I don't know what to do. I'm gonna do this again. Yeah, I want to be here. I wish you were here. Okay. Okay, you just sacrificed a piece out of nowhere. I feel like that was not a mistake that you made. I feel like that was a deliberate mistake. I'll take this. Well, I hope this works out, okay? You know, this is a big gamble, but okay, yeah, you messed up. You didn't need to take that piece. You didn't have to take that piece. You made a mistake. Oh my god, you made a mistake. Oh my god, you made a mistake. Oh my dog. Oh, you made a mistake. You made blunder. You made a serious blunder. Like, what's now? What now? Can you do? You don't have much to do. I'll go there, right? Okay. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. That was just so beautiful, man. What's the analysis? Well, let's go to the next game. I will analyze this game later on. Okay. Did it? What are you saying, man? Come on, man. Just drop. Yeah, man. I'm gonna give you a timeout. Just chill out, man. Um, okay, cool. Okay. That is something. But not sure what. You just sacrificed a piece. I don't know. You know what? Let's play without. Hmm. If I take this, then I can go there. You're losing all your pieces very, very rapidly. Offered a draw? How can you offer me a draw, man? I just straight up winning. I mean, I have way more pieces. You know what? I offered this piece to you. Shit. Okay. Can't bring this. What? Brother. What you doing? Yeah. Is he getting a gift? Is he getting a gift? Oh, he is kind of gonna get a gift. Yeah, that is. Your queen is trapped. Fucking queen is trapped. I think so. Thought you're gonna get an amazing gift. Whatever it is, you are not getting away. I can go there, then he'll go there, you know. Oh yeah, this is nice. If it goes there, I can go there. Well, let's see. He goes there. I can just go there. Oh my god. So, so badly. Okay. That was a terrible mistake I did. I'll be honest, that is my mistake. You can go there. You have a chance. I have to be very careful here now. I go there. Okay, so he would take this, then I can go there. Then he would do this. Okay. Or I can just straight up go there. Like, what will you take? You can take this. I can just do this. We cannot take this. I'm gonna take out the yes. Oof. I think I missed one or two mate in one. But I don't know. Yeah, this is a checkmate, just straight up checkmate. Because the king can't go anywhere. The king can't go here, here, or here. And the king can't go here. This is straight up checkmate. I'm not sure how he can stop it and if it doesn't take the piece. And even if it takes the piece, I take this and then he has to run away, but he can't run away. Kind of trapped. Oh my god. Oh my god, this is so funny. just done this instead, where would you have gone? Not there. Yeah, that I could have done a checkmate to pawn. Shit, man, messed up. Mhm. Good. Huh. You left me with dumb pieces. I don't know what else to do. Ah. Ah. Okay. My god. Ooh. I see what you did there. Oh, you protected this. That was a long plan. How did you think about it? You know what? Let's play. Wanna play? Let's play. Can't you do this? I'm not sure what I'm going to do here. Go off, king. Huh. Okay. I'm in a peace deficit. I'm a pawn up, but what is playing? What is Damn. Confused the fuck out of me here, man. I'm just going to do this, and I can get there. Or he's going to do something like that. Very unsure. I can only move my rook for now. He was playing like he hasn't played in his life. Okay. Like 800 rating? Fuck that. Fight with a god. I think he's going to blunder here. Oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no, oh my god. Am I dumb? Am I dumb? Oh my god, am I dumb? I'm dumb. I'm dumb. Dude, immediately just. I was so close, man. I just did one blunder and I messed it all up. Oh my. Okay, no, he was still winning. Yeah, he was still winning. Just review this, okay? This is a weird match. Where's the review? How's there no review button here? What? Yeah. Oh my god. Okay. I could have had really good, but I immediately blended after that. I missed it. Clearly, I don't want to leave it in danger. So sassy, man. Oh, you're so sassy. Oh my god. That was not good. It's okay. Sometimes these matches happen. Oh my god. I need to stop. Um, it's writing bullshit on the chat. Just tired of them. Okay, I have 11 minutes. Just play another. No. No. Loopy doopy. Oh, what? If I do this and he takes this, and then I do this, then he takes this, then I don't have to take actually. You know? Maybe I do have to. Oh, you weirdo. Motherfucker. Oh, the idiot. Oh no, oh no. Are you kidding with me? Are you kidding with me? No. Are you kidding with me? Come on. Okay. I just do this, I guess. Yeah, I'm not gonna take it now. You made it weird. Yeah, I'm gonna. That was just not good. I messed up somewhere here. Oh, it was 1500. Oh, could have just gone the direction. Oh my god. This was. Okay, you know what? You did you see that? Fucking weird, man. It's been normal, man. Ah, let's just. Okay. Skewers. Let's start with the pen. Yeah, there we go. We take, sorry, that. There we go. And we can do that. We can do that. Where's the winning position? You can do that. Move. You can take this. Exploit the pen. Do this. Can't take this. Okay. What was that? Okay. Do this because this is pinned, and I can do this. That's a checkmate. There's another slide, and then boom. And now comes to again. If I'm what? Take this relative skewer because it's on a queen. And I can do this relative skewer. Can take this, and then I can do this. Can take his piece. I don't know. Probably give me something, but that's how it goes. Okay. Take the queen, and I do this, return queen, and take it, and yeah. Now comes the fork. So the fork there. And then another fork. Oh. There's that. Pawn fork. Okay, yeah. This is just simple as well, not too much. And this is the rook fork, and I take this. And I think there's is that it? No, that's a fork is when it is attacking two pieces at the same time. But the main pieces at this piece, then I do this, take this. For this, I do this, threaten the checkmate here, but yeah. Not the best, but what what's more you can ask, right? 1020. It's an okay rating, not bad, I would say. I started out with 1010, 10 years slow growth. Anyway, I'm gonna end the chess here. Gonna go to Wordle and React. React to Jordan Peterson. Video. Yeah. Uh, should I start with a do? Okay. 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 There's A and there's U. Okay, Taurus is not a 5 letter word. Uh, that is U. Ugh. Okay. It won't be Uranus. Ugh. Something after UTU, maybe. Guyana. That's a place. Okay, you and A together. Oh, that's beautiful. I don't. I can't think of any words. Mhm. Is it? It won't be quaint. What a word! Oh my god! There is. Won't be Quacko. Guapo. Huevo. Oh, is it? No, it can't be quick. He is not there. It would be so funny if it's just. You know what? I would. Talk. Hey, walk it like it. Hmm. I think I don't know the word. What the hell is whack? Teacher. What? Uh, I'm doing this with. Hello, hello, hello. So last time we saw Jordan Peterson, we saw him sort of, evade questions, you know, just sort of ground his belief, however, still using it to, make up some fantastical things God is consciousness, but at the same believing in hell and hell, still fantastical. And the moment he was asked if he was Christian, he just got really defensive, even though he himself said that he believes in the Old Testament, he follows it, and he also, according to him, anybody who follows Old Testament rules without even knowing about it, that person is still a Christian, which I don't know, is very he's very defensive about everything, and he's not debating his own views sometimes, but it's getting weird. So uh, with his weird laugh here, we're gonna start and end the rest of the video that we've seen and see where he goes there and what he does, and if we get to know more about him, or is this what I started with is the real thing, is that what Jordan Peterson is. Okay, let's watch it.
You're a Christian.
You say that. I haven't
Yeah.
claimed that.
Oh, what is this? Is this Christians versus atheists?
Don't be a smartass.
Either you're a Christian or you're not. Which one is it?
You're really quite. Hi there.
Hi, nice
What's
to
your
meet you.
name?
Gerard.
Hello, Gerard.
Nice to meet you, sir. So you've said that worship is when you prioritize and sacrifice for something, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But there's a hierarchy in there.
Sure. So I prioritize and sacrifice for my wife more than I would prioritize and sacrifice for a random person on the street, right?
Probably, yeah.
Presumably. Do I worship
I don't know.
my
I've
wife?
seen some pretty bad marriages.
Assuming a good marriage, are you saying I worship my wife?
I'm trying to define worship.
Well, that's what I'm asking. So prioritize and sacrifice. I do
The
those
higher
things.
it is in the hierarchy, the more what you're doing is akin to worship. But even in your
Okay.
trivial acts of attention, you're prioritizing.
Immediately he has immediately he's confused.
And partaking in worship, even if you don't know it.
So I am
And it's
prioritizing.
partly, well, with regard to your wife, say, so why do you value
there, there is but fuck. I think so. What doesn't do.
your wife? You do value your
Yes,
wife.
I love
okay.
her. So I
Right.
prioritize and I
Okay.
sacrifice for her.
Right, right. So that's within the confines of love, let's say.
Sure.
What else does it serve?
What else does what serve?
Your love in your marriage?
I mean, I'm married to my wife because I love her. That's
Yeah.
also why I prioritize and sacrifice for her. I certainly wouldn't think I worship her, and I don't think anyone else would make that.
I'm
Are you
trying to
making
make
that
a
claim?
definition.
Okay.
Yeah, that there's a hierarchy of attentional priority, and as you move up it or down it, depending on whether you think about it as a pinnacle or a foundation, you move more towards worship. Right.
Okay.
So even
Okay, so worship. his his sort of just blurring. It doesn't have the top of the priority list. That is, but what if it wife? Does it?
In the small things, I'll give you an example. Imagine you go on a date. Well, and imagine that your aim is a long-term relationship like a marriage. Okay, now imagine that your aim is short-term sexual gratification. Your pattern of attention is going to vary during the date, depend on your ultimate end.
Of course.
That's
So you will.
the hierarchy. The way that you attend to your wife is dependent on your ultimate aims, even if you don't know it.
So at what point is it worship? Because it sounds like you're saying
It's
worship is almost a
shades.
spectrum, right? Or it's not a binary. It's not a.
It's kind of
quantum.
like that's a good
So
question.
when
It's
is
like
when is it worship as opposed to just I love my wife?
the closer you get to the top or the bottom, the more it's more like
How close
worship.
to the top? Because I don't think I worship anything. And if you're saying I have to hit a certain threshold for it to be worship, it is possible I don't worship anything then, right?
It's not possible that you don't
Kidding with me?
worship anything.
What do I worship?
Because you wouldn't attend. Well, love.
So you think I
Apparently.
worship love?
Do you attend in consequence of love?
I
See,
do.
I'm trying to define something. What do you mean worship? I told you what I meant.
I
What do
mean-
you mean?
You haven't really told what you mean. You don't have a definition of it. You haven't defined it. It is still very blurry. Your definition is not very clear cut like you want to pretend that. Okay? You can just in your head that you're believing, but that's not what truly is.
So I mean, something you worship is something that you have a reverential view for in a manner in which you believe it to be above and beyond normal things you like. Like you
So do you
presumably
have
worship
that
God.
attitude towards your wife?
I have that
Do you
attitude.
privilege her compared to other women?
Of course, I privilege her compared to
Okay.
other women, but I don't worship her. Nor does she worship me.
By the definition you just offered, yes, you do. Because you just offered a definition that involved prioritization and elevation.
Everything else. I mean, that he's just trying to find holes in his theory. He's trying to attack him, but
And thinking that she is divine above and beyond what a normal natural
women-
phenomenon can be. Not other women, no, beyond any human being could ever be. I will prioritize her over
See,
any
you're
other
making
human, but I
the
don't
assumption.
think that she is some
You're making the
supernatural being.
assumption that the
okay. If it's prioritizing her over any other woman, that just means that it's wife. Why would you prioritize anybody along any other woman? What the fuck do you mean, John?
only the thing at the top or the bottom has anything to do with worship. And I'm saying that's not true. It's a hierarchy of prioritization. And there's either something at the top or the bottom, depending on the metaphor, or you're
call it all worship.
Fragmented and confused. Those are the only options.
So let's say
You're
I'm
either going in many directions
Okay.
or you're going in one
So
direction.
let's suppose I'm fragmented and confused. Then you agree I don't worship anything.
No, then you'd worship multiple things.
So what's the threshold when it's worship, right? I prioritize a lot of stuff.
I said that the closer you get to the pinnacle or the
How
closer you
close?
get...
Can you give me some sort of metric? How close do I got to get to this pinnacle?
Do you know the difference between cheap literature and deep literature?
Yes.
Okay, that's the same issue. And how do you distinguish between them? What's the difference between cheap and deep?
I mean, it's really an opinion-based thing, right?
Is
I mean,
it? So it's just an opinion that
plenty of-
Dostoevsky is better than a porno magazine.
Well, I've spoken to people who think To Kill a Mockingbird's cheap. It's one of my favorite books. So, I mean, people will differ on
Well,
opinions.
just because people are stupid about things doesn't mean that their opinion is valid.
That's certainly
Do you,
true.
well,
I do
let
agree
me
with
ask
it. I
you.
agree with that.
Okay,
Turning
well,
it
do you
on
think
now.
there is a hierarchy in literary quality?
I think that there is a hierarchy to an extent in literary quality, but I think once you get to a certain threshold, it is just opinion. Like, I agree. Dostoevsky
Okay.
is better than a porno mag, but is F. Scott Fitzgerald
Why do
better
you
than
think
Ernest
that?
Hemingway? I don't know.
Yeah, fair enough. Why do you think that?
Because of what a book is, what literature is, Dostoevsky, he follows what literature is the purpose of more than the porno magazine
Okay,
does.
good. Well,
So it's about purpose
so
and
let me.
definitions.
Yeah, sure. Let me give you an analog then.
Okay.
The depth of worship is analogous to depth of literary significance, and the closer you get to what's deep, the more
and-
religious.
So he's using already existing thing and defining it as the spiritual version of it. I mean, what? It he's just confusing people at this point, knowingly confusing people at this point.
And worshipful your practice.
So to
And
use
maybe you
your
don't know what's at the bottom, but something needs to be, or you're confused.
Well, so to use your analogy, then, how deep do I have to go for it to be worship? Do I have to be Catcher in the Rye? Do I have to be War and Peace? Or
Depends on what
Is
it depends on
Twilight
what
enough?
you're seeking for.
I'm seeking to know whether I worship something. You've claimed I worship something, and I
If
want
you
to
want
know.
to have a deep and meaningful life, then you have to go all the way to the bottom or the top. And insofar as you're capable of doing that, because otherwise you'll be fragmented and miserable and anxiety-ridden and hopeless.
So I have to worship something to have a meaningful life. And if I
There's
worship
no
multiple-
difference between those two things.
Okay.
They're the same thing.
So if I don't worship anything, my life will not be meaningful, correct?
Well, that's the definition of nihilism.
Okay. So if I'm a nihilist, I don't worship anything.
That's true. And then you
Oh, okay. You just said everybody worships something. I think you've just agreed there is a class of people that doesn't.
well, they're incoherent in their worship. And hand gestures like that aren't going to help.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's just like, his whole belief is just an engagement bait, okay? His whole belief just feels like an engagement bait, or he's just completely lying, not honest, and just trying to trick it.
They're
If you're
incoherent.
incoherent and fragmented and aimless, which is what happens if your objects of worship
wants
are
to
unstructured and
sound
chaotic,
very
then you're going to
interesting,
be
something,
anxiety-ridden
but at the
and
end of
without
it,
hope.
if you
That happens. That's a technical...
put the energy, if you put the energy, that is, he will realize that putting that energy is waste of it on Jordan Peterson.
argument.
But there's happy nihilists.
Oh, there
How
are.
do you
they?
explain that there are happy nihilists then? Because
Well,
you just said they
the
can't
mere
be.
fact that you state that there are happy nihilists doesn't make it true. Like, what's your evidence that? How do you measure nihilism, and how have you associated it with happiness? And what's
How
your
do you define
definition of
happiness?
Have you compared them to religious people? Because if you do, by the way, it's clearly the case that religious people, over the long run, have better mental health. It's a well-documented fact in psychological literature.
Sure.
So your claim is just a claim. It doesn't stand on anything.
So you disagree with the claim that there exists even one happy nihilist?
I
You would
didn't say that.
Okay, would you agree there exists at least one happy nihilist in the universe?
It's not a question that has any meaning as far as I'm concerned, because it
Okay.
depends on what you mean by happy, and it depends on the duration that you're trying to calculate
Like I
over.
said.
Now and then, there's probably some deluded soul who thinks he's a nihilist who's momentarily pleased with himself. But as a long-term strategy to deal with the future, to get along with yourself and with others, it's sadly lacking. That's why Nietzsche warned that when God died, as he announced in 1850, that people would be flooded with pointless, anxiety-ridden, hopeless nihilism. And that was what would attract them to for example, to the false gods of totalitarianism. which is exactly what happened, because everybody worships something, even atheists who think they don't.
Aren't there unhappy Christians or
course
devoted
there are.
believers? So worshiping something is neither sufficient nor necessary for happiness then.
Well, terrible things can come your way regardless, and that does
Okay.
happen, but it's the case that even when circumstances become deeply troublesome, that how you're oriented makes a big difference. So I'll give you an example. So the book of Job deals with the issue of unfair suffering. So Job is a good man who has everything taken away from him in the most painful possible way.
To settle a bet, right?
With Satan,
Yes.
yes. And so he makes the axiomatic presumption that he won't lose faith in himself or in the spirit of being itself. And that helps him remain calm and forward-looking through his time of trial.
Doesn't he absolutely curse God?
No, his wife tells him to do that.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, good.
Put in. Like, dude is just using different words for different things. Adding one of those two.
My final claim is that atheists accept Christian morality, but deny the religion's foundational stories. Hi there.
It's very nice to meet you.
What's
I'm
your
Ian.
name?
I'm Ian.
Hi, Ian.
Yes. So God says that you can own people as property. He says that you can beat them with a rod too. He commands genocide in Deuteronomy, in Numbers, and in Samuel. I mean, they have a goddamn baby barbecue in Numbers. Like, is all of this in line
He
with
just opened up a lot of things, and I think he would try to attack something. Let's see how he deals that.
Christian ethics?
No.
So then God doesn't fit within Christian ethics.
Well, the biblical library is a continuing story, and everything written in it has to be contextualized by the entire text. There's 65,000 hyperlinks in the biblical text. And you can take pieces of it out of context and criticize them, and that's what you're doing. But that's a mistake, I think. It's an analytic mistake because you're putting the cart before the horse.
I really don't think so. I think
Yeah, I
that
know
if
you don't.
if we say that something is Christian ethics, then I think that all of the books essential to Christianity would fit with it, especially if it's like the main character. When we're talking
How
about
do you deal with
God,
the morality of war?
So-
How do you think you should deal with the
Sure,
morality
sure,
of
sure,
war?
sure. Because I feel like the morality, like I feel like Christian ethics, like this is kind of, I guess I just think it's like kind of an absurdity to say that God doesn't fit within Christian ethics. But sure, well, we can go on my ethics. That's totally fine.
I don't know what you mean by an absurdity. What game are you playing with
Well,
that
I just think
question?
that it's an absurdity to say that the Christian God doesn't fit within Christian ethics. That like the Christian
I
God
didn't
isn't
say
like
that.
Christian
I
ethical.
said that the specific statements that you made don't take the context of the stories into account, and so that your analytical approach is faulty.
Sure.
Don't put words in my
Okay,
mouth.
Sure, then let's go through
Thank
the
you.
example. Yeah, so, and I apologize. So let's go through the example. So in 1 Samuel 15:3, God says, go and slaughter the Amalekites, slaughter the men, the women, the
Yeah.
children, the infants. What's the justification for that? Is that in line
That's a
with
good
Christian
question.
ethics?
That's a good question. I don't really know what to do with the terrible, blood-soaked, saturated history of the human past. I don't know. And I don't think anybody knows. I mean, what you try to do in your own life, as far as I can tell, is to conduct yourself in a manner that makes such things much more unlikely.
I totally agree.
We're all saddled with the problem of the catastrophes that got us here, aren't we?
Yeah, but
And-
this
and-
one was commanded by God. That's the problem.
Yeah,
That's
well-
what differentiates it from anything else, is that this one, it's God
Do you
saying,
think that
go
there's
and
ever
do this
such a thing?
atrocity.
Do you think that there's ever such a thing as a righteous war?
I'm skeptical. I'm not sure. It would probably be situational.
Sort of.
Well, right, fair
Yeah,
enough.
but
I
this
mean,
one
people,
certainly wasn't a just war. The context for the Amalekites slaughter is that 400 years earlier, they fought one battle, which they lost, and God says, that's it, I'm gonna wipe them off the face of the goddamn earth. And then 400 years later, he commands the Israelites to genocide their great-great-great-great-great-great-grandchildren. That's not a just war at all. And also, a genocide is not a war.
well, a genocide can be a war, but
Absolutely not.
Look.
The genociding of the Amalekites, the men, the women, and the
What? You fucking weirdo. We had a
infants. That's not a war. The infants aren't combatants.
Look, I already said that it's very
define infants. Dude is going to make it define infants, and then he would conclude with that only fetuses are children. When they come outside, they are a real human being.
very difficult to look at the blood-soaked past and to know exactly what to do about it. The answer I gave to the gentleman who is sitting here before you is that it's necessary to read a text like the Bible at all of its levels of analysis simultaneously. And there's a directional morality that emerges across time that has its roots in the Old Testament, for example, with its restrictions against murder specifically, that makes itself manifest in the Christian texts as the insistence on voluntary self-sacrifice as the foundational belief. That's a profound
I think the most important thing you can, discuss with him is that why is not immorality founded in caring for people? I mean, what if you build immorality from caring of people and just following a book blindly? What then? I wonder what he would say about it. That is
anti-violence ethos.
Do you have the belief in your theology?
Well, what do you think of that? Wait a sec. Now, redress
So
what I just said.
So I'm about to address it, but I'm addressing it with a question. Do you think that God is by his very essence perfect?
You'll have to provide more.
Sure, just like maximally great in all like the
think it's
great
a
making
definition.
qualities.
Sure,
Yeah,
by
like
definition.
flawless. Yeah. So,
Okay,
so,
so
does a
wait a
flawless
sec,
thing
wait a
change?
sec.
Does a flawless thing reveal like more and better information over time, or would a flawless thing say, here's what's good, here is the absolute good thing to do at all circumstances in time?
Well, we know some of that.
Wait,
Tell
so
the truth.
does
That's one.
that's totally fine, but
No,
presumably
no. You don't get to
That's
skate over
because
that.
this is a
Which
straw
that's
man.
totally
It's
fine.
a straw man of my position. It's a straw man of the argument. So
In
the
what way?
argument
No,
is
wait,
that God,
wait a sec. You
Well, I'm
said
already waiting a
find
second.
one maxim that's transcendent across situations.
I didn't
and
say any
just
of those
did.
words. I'm not sure what
Hey,
conversation you're a
rephrase.
part of.
Don't be a smartass.
I'm sorry.
Seriously, I mean it. If we're going to have a serious conversation,
Sure.
conduct yourself properly.
Okay.
Okay. Rephrase your question so that because I must have
She's
missed
trying
it, I
to
tried to
mad
answer.
as
So
the
in my
whole
mind, I guess by my lights, a perfect being doesn't change. A perfect being, if they're maximally good, maximally moral,
Does our understanding of the perfect being change?
our understanding might, but
Okay, how
presumably
do we
what the perfect
distinguish? How do
being
we
is
distinguish?
revealing.
Well, I agree. How do we distinguish between that, though, at the human level?
How do
so
we distinguish between whether
between our transforming understanding of perfection and perfection itself?
Between
right?
our
we can only we can only see
a
through our
perfect
own
being,
lenses.
presumably a perfect being would be revealing all of these aspects all the time, especially if God's outside of time. I don't know how a God who's outside of time
how does
is
something-
revealing different things at different times. That just seems like incoherent to me.
Imagine something that's perfect.
Sure.
And complete.
Sure.
Okay, and it's trying to communicate with creatures who are anything but that.
Sure.
Well, they're going to get it wrong.
Sure,
Okay,
but
now
what
wait a sec. Do you blame that on the interpreters or the phenomena itself?
So in
Like,
this
for
case-
example, are you
well, yeah, I
perfect in
blame this-
attending to your conscience?
Hold on. At the point in time when God is literally the one who created us, he could have created us in a way where we would always be receptive to these principles, where we don't have to go across like a learning curve where, maybe we'll understand
maintain
like
free will.
thousands of years into the future, maybe we'll do it. Oh, also, if you believe in an all-knowing God, then free will is impossible because
Wait
if
a
it-
sec. Wait, let's
well,
not go
wait,
to that
because
yet.
you threw free will into the mix.
Well, that was
I-
the answer to your question.
Yeah, and
you
I'm
said,
saying
why
that's
wouldn't
incoherent.
God... Well,
It's
1,000
contradictory.
years of deep-thinking philosophers would disagree with you. But
Yeah,
have
and
it your
1,000
way.
years of, or at least like the last 50 years of philosophers would disagree with you. These analytic philosophers, people like Graham Oppie make arguments about the incompatibility of omniscience and free will, that if God created this world, if he chose this world instead of that world, then he makes it causally inevitable every single action that you were going to make. If he made a world where we were just electrons in love, then none of this would have happened. But by making us in this world, knowing exactly what's going to happen in the future, it makes all of those events inevitable, which means that they're all causally determined, which means that we have no free will if you believe in an all-good God or an all-knowing God that made everything.
Well, have it your way.
Okay, cool.
I
So
don't,
then the
I
free will
don't,
of the Odyssey fails.
Well, it fails for you. That doesn't mean you've disproved it. I mean,
you
you
wanna
tried to
respond to the
make...
argument?
Yes, you tried to make a case for a causally deterministic universe. I don't think there's any evidence for that at all.
Do you think that God could have created a different universe than the one that he created?
I have no idea.
Okay, so then there's going to be a double bind, right? So either he couldn't have done it, in which case he lacks the power, or he could have done it, in which case we don't have free will, because he chose this world instead of that world, making the events of this world instead of that world inevitable with his infallible
Okay.
knowledge.
I don't understand where you're
Okay.
headed.
Which means that
Okay. He broke Jordan Peterson. He was able to do. Well, this guy is cool, dude.
the free will defense fails. It's like all this, under
Like I
your
said,
view,
if
under
you want
your
to have
view,
it
free
fail,
will.
no problem. I don't know why it's relevant to the issue
Do you
we're discussing.
acknowledge that under your view, free will doesn't exist?
No.
Oh, then do you want to respond to the argument?
you'll have to phrase it more
Sure,
clearly
okay.
so that someone like me can understand it.
Yeah, gotcha. So God already knows in advance everything that's going to happen, which means that by making this world instead of that world, everything is inevitable, which means that God's act of causing this world instead of that
Inevitable
world,
doesn't mean determined.
it's causally inevitable if God
Inevitable does mean determined. Okay. That inevitable, it means it is going to happen. So it is determined that it will happen.
chooses this world instead of that world,
Doesn't make it determined.
causally inevitable means determined.
No, it doesn't.
Absolutely, yes, it does.
Well, have it your way.
Okay.
That's not the case.
You've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
Dude, actually, this dude was doing much better than any other, like Danny or anybody, because he had he actually went through the thought process and got a lot, did a lot he could do. This. He used his own logic against him, like that there's faults to his logic, and he went through his Jordan Peterson logic. See, now, if you put what the whole conversation that happened with this Jordan Peterson, God is consciousness, then it doesn't apply here, because then a lot of things become fantastical. Like consciousness created it all, and consciousness is a God, and you are not about a grounded consciousness. You are talking about, flying. It is not grounded. What?
Jordan, nice to meet you.
Very zippy. What's your name?
I'm Liam.
Hi, Liam. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Not too bad. I'm
good.
surrounded by atheists.
My question to you, let me scoot in, would be, what does it mean to accept Christian values precisely, or Christian morality?
It means to aim up as hard as you can, no matter what happens to you.
Okay.
Okay.
So I think that that's a very broad definition of what Christian
Yeah, but it'll
morality
come
is.
in handy at some point in your life.
Right. But I think that many different disciplines and theologies.
Well, you asked for a truncated answer. I
Right.
mean, there's other ways of representing the
Yeah.
situation, but I wanted to give you something that was kind of foundational briefly.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It doesn't mean it's, exhaustive.
Yeah.
I could say that you would have to believe that Christ is God and he died for your sins,
Mm-hmm.
right? But that's in a very difficult way to understand. That's the same claim.
Yeah. If there are other theologies and disciplines
Yeah.
that have similar types of values,
Yeah.
how then is that definition mean? Like, wouldn't those also be Christian values under your definition?
That's a good question. I spent a lot of time studying different religious systems from all over the world and found multiple interesting layers of concordance. So, for example, in ancient Egypt, their god Horus, who was the reviving god of the totalitarian state, the corrupt he was the god of attention. Right, and the Jews hypothetically came out of Egypt, and there was crosstalk between Egyptian and Jewish foundational morality, and then that bled into Christianity. I mean, human beings all over the world have come up with moral systems that fit roughly into a pattern, and they're very usefully studied. Now, I learned a lot about Christianity by studying Taoism, for example, like a lot. So I think you can make a case that Christianity formalized the landscape of good and evil more comprehensively and in more detail than any other religious system, and I think that that's part of the reason that it defeated paganism and spread so broadly across the West and is still dominant, still understructures our culture, for example.
The way you feel about Horus or Taoism or something is how I feel about Christian morals, I think.
Yeah, but how do I feel about them?
Well, that you took inspiration from them, you learned from them. Maybe
That's a good start,
Right.
because I would say that actually constitutes belief. Like you said, well, look,
Right.
in Noah, in the story of Noah, right? Noah is inspired by the apprehension that all hell is going to break loose. Okay,
Yeah.
he regards that inspiration as God.
Okay.
Right, and when God comes to Abraham, he comes to Abraham as the spirit of adventure. It's inspiration. One of the definitions of God in the Old Testament, unsurprisingly, given the derivation of the word, is inspiration. And so if you take inspiration from Christian ideas, then insofar as you do that, you are in fact a believer, which was my point with regards to atheists
Correct.
not understanding.
But have
what
you
they're
taken
Okay, wait. Then he is a Christian. Okay.
inspiration from Taoism or from studying Egyptian mythology?
Definitely.
So then you believe them under that definition?
Yeah, but I've incorporated them into something I think that's more comprehensive.
Is it possible to take inspiration and to appreciate the teachings without being a believer in their truth claims?
It depends. No, I don't think so. But I think, you see, there are different kinds of truth claims, right? There's propositional truth claims, which are the truth claims of what you say. And then there's embodied truth claims, which is the truth claims of what you do. That should be prioritized. Optimally, what you say and what you do would be brought into harmony. But I would say if you had to prioritize, it should be what you attend
He's putting
to and what
things in such a broad definition that, it will include everything. Anything and everything.
you act first. And that's what Christ actually says in the Gospels, because he points to the Pharisees, for example, who say all the right things, but don't do any of the right things, and points out very clearly that that's not acceptable.
I don't know that the Christian morality, those principles originate in Christianity, because you brought up other things that predate Christianity that you can very closely tie connections to.
Well, I don't think they do originate precisely. I mean,
Right.
I don't think the Christian claim is exactly that they originate in Christianity.
So if I'm
right? Because-
living those values, how is it that I'm living the Christian values and maybe not the Egyptian values or something else?
well,
that you
one
brought
of,
up?
one of,
Pause there. You've been voted out by
that was good. That was good. Yeah.
Hi.
Hello there. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. What's your name?
I'm Kumari. So I was curious about this Christian morality that you're talking about, because a lot of my issues with Christianity have to do with the base morality of it, specifically with the idea of the rapture and how we see people that aren't going to come up with us with the rapture, and that concept of heaven and hell. I don't really agree with that morality, but if you could explain that to me and how I do agree with that, I would love to hear.
Well,
your
I
opinions.
can't explain the rapture to you because that isn't something I concern myself with, and that's more of a
That's true.
sectarian belief than something that's central to Christianity. Now, there's all sorts of evangelical Protestants who might disagree with that, but
Yeah.
that doesn't have anything to do with me. You asked a deeper question with regard to, let's say, heaven and hell and judgment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's a tough one, right? I mean, sin, you could put it this way, sin is what puts you in hell, right? And so then you might ask, well, how do you know you're in hell? How about you do anything to get out of it?
Can I ask you
How
a
about you
question?
know that you put yourself there?
Do you think is sin a part of Christian morality?
What
Do
do
you?
you mean exactly? Sin as a
Like
part.
the
It's missing
concept
the
of sin?
Can't define
it's,
it.
it's
Heaven or
derived
hell.
from an archery term, and it means to miss the target, right? And so it presumes that there's such a thing as a central target, and that you can miss it in many ways. And the consequence of that will be your life will be ridden with anxiety. Your life will be pointless.
What
People
if
will
I
turn against you.
don't believe in sin at all?
What do you believe in error?
I
Have you made
don't.
any mistakes?
What if I believe that the mistakes that you make, that they're fixable, and so that no sin is finite, and that the
Well, that's a
idea
Christian belief.
of the idea of hell, I don't believe
That's
in
also
it
a
because
Christian belief, by the way.
a Christian belief is hell.
No, that there's no sin that, well, there's one. The sin
Miserable in life is hell, and being content in life is heaven. See? I do have to question that. What? So yeah, heaven and hell are just. But how does following immorality off of a book is just going to help you? Why can't you build your own morality system? Why can't you build it? Why do you have to follow it from? You can build a lot on your own. Why can't it just give people, the tools to that the people can build it? Why is it?
sin against the Holy Ghost is unforgivable, but that's really the sin against the process that would enable you to learn.
Okay. But there's a Christian belief that hell does exist, and if I commit sin, I'm going to go there, correct?
Yes.
So what if I don't? I don't believe in that. I think
Well, okay, let me
that
a-
when you
okay,
can I
that's
explain
good.
a little bit?
Sure.
Okay. Thank you. I think that when you commit sin, that it's because of a lot of environmental factors in your life, like where you were born and who you were raised by, and so there are certain things that lead you down a dangerous path. And once you are dead, I think you're kind of removed of that person. There's no
I
there
can't
are
say
no
any- I
factors
can't
of the
say
earth
anything
that have
about
to.
what happens after death.
Right.
So I would ask you, in these times that you've suffered terribly in ways that you thought would never
Yeah.
end, do you believe that you had any causal role in that? Like, did you play a part in that?
In my own suffering,
Yeah.
Maybe sometimes I would say that
Okay.
there was a part that I played
well,
in
that's-
that.
okay,
but I
that's
also
the thing
do
to
think
find
that,
out.
I think that maybe it's like a concept of free will that I don't really believe in somewhat of free will, that I think that there are certain things in your life that lead you to do certain behaviors. And so when you commit those
So if you do something and you feel bad about it, that is hell. If you do good, if you do something else and feel good about it, that is heaven. But that raises a question. Some people feel good about doing a fucking awful kind of things. They feel good about it. Does it mean they are in heaven? His whole argument just falls off. The moment he tries to ground it, his whole argument just falls off.
sins, you go to hell. I'm
He
not
believes in fantastical things, but he tries to ground it. It's a really common thing I've seen religious people do. Like, they would try to ground it. Aliens? That aliens? Or something. Sort of. Ground fantastical thing. Don't stick with the ground words. But
not too sure why you would still be
When you
reaping the
okay, do you
consequences
believe,
of that.
like I said, I can't
Yeah.
address that. Do you believe that you can change?
I do.
Do you believe you can change for the better?
I do.
Do you believe that when you change for the better, you abandon the things you've done in the past that weren't good?
I think that you can.
Okay, then
Yeah.
that's very much in keeping with Christian doctrine.
Can you explain to me how that's in keeping with
Well,
Christian doctrine?
believe
If you would go to hell for
okay,
those things?
You believe you can improve,
Yeah.
right? And you believe that if you improved, you would let go of things that were impeding you. That's a sacrifice. You believe that improvement would be upward, and you believe that you have agency in that. Yeah, those are all Christian presuppositions.
I guess maybe we have different opinions of what Christian morality is.
Yes, sounds
so
like
I think
it.
that my opinion of Christian morality is something that I don't really agree with, and maybe you would define that as like the foundations of
Well, let
Christianity.
me give you an example. So if you want to atone, which
Yeah.
means to unify yourself and unify that with the world, then the first thing you have to do is figure out what you did wrong and admit it. That's a confession. That was good.
Thank you. So
Yeah,
nice to meet you.
yeah, nice to meet you too. I picked Zena because I think she asked genuine questions and wasn't trying to win.
Okay, well, hello again.
Hi there.
My claim is
I didn't know why he chose it. I mean, I saw that he chose it by going through it, but when I saw a conversation with him, yeah.
Jordan Peterson's Frank.
But she did post a reel, making fun of him, which if he sees he would be fuming.
Framework for understanding Christianity is probably not the one that the Bible intended us to use. In regards to the way that you interpret the Bible, I don't see, you have said in some circumstances that there's not a way to kind of say whether or not ontologically the historical claims made by the Bible are true. Like, for example, the story of Cain and Abel. You said that this story is like a meta-truth in the sense that it exists all throughout time, culturally. And the way that you define meta-truth, I don't see a distinction between that and like a metaphor, right? But and you also said that you cannot say whether this story was true. You can say that it exists eternally, metaphorically, but you can't say that it's true. And if you can't say that there are historical facts being said in the Bible as stories that weren't really said with much ambiguity, how can we say that we can understand the Bible in the way that it's meant to be interpreted? Like, if you cannot make any claims about these stories, right? You don't know whether they're true or false. How do you know that your interpretation is the correct way?
So that's why I picked you. You ask intelligent questions.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was good. What do they say? By their fruits you'll know them.
Okay.
Right. Well, so
Yeah.
one of the things I look at is the impact of what I'm doing. Right. And so I know a lot of evangelical Christians, a lot of Catholics, a lot of Orthodox Christians, a lot of people from other faiths. And they've told me, like many of them, that they found my interpretations very helpful and that it deepened their faith. And so that's interesting because I wouldn't have necessarily expected that to be the case. And I've also talked to thousands of people who've told me that they came to understand the foundational stories of their culture better as a consequence of listening to me, and that they did everything they could to sort out their lives and that it worked. That's many different pieces of evidence that all converge on something like the practical and conceptual utility of my approach. Now, is it the same? There's a lot of approaches to biblical interpretation historically, and what I'm doing is possibly less new than you think.
Yeah, I want to make a claim on whether this evidence is enough, right, to substantiate whether or not your interpretation is going to, you know, be more plausible, right, be the most plausible. Because in
It's
regards
an
to,
open question.
yeah, right.
You bet.
So in regards to how we interpret the Bible and how we see the Bible, something can add value to someone's life. An interpretation can add value to someone's life. An interpretation can connect you to your conception of what your faith is. But if it's the quote-unquote interpretation that God does not intend, that can lead to a plethora
That's
of
certainly the case.
Yeah, that is a question. Like, if there is a set thing to do, but you are not doing the set thing, but you want to do the set thing. Okay.
That's why the medieval Christians were so concerned about heresy.
Exactly.
Yeah, because they felt, and that's why the Catholics objected so much to the Protestant Reformation, because they believed that the fractionation of Christianity would result in an indefinite fractionation, right? Well, and that's exactly what's happened.
Right.
So yeah, that's definitely a problem. I think one of the foundational principles, for example, there's a foundational principle in the Old Testament of hospitality, right? So what you want to do if you set up your local environment properly is to make it welcoming to people voluntarily. And so one of the ways you could judge the validity of the interpretation of a classic story is whether or not that interpretation might be regarded by someone as welcoming. Does that represent something you'd actually like to have if you were acting in your own interest in the long run?
Right, and we can talk about that. Like,
Protect you from fear might be another one.
Exactly. So we can talk about like how these interpretations of the Bible, like if they kind of resonate with us. And I think, but I think that can in some case be some kind of like evidence, oh, this might be true, but I think we need to ask, is this evidence damning, right? Is this evidence certain, right?
Yeah.
So, but I do want to look at, again, the consequences and our understanding of this interpretation once more. So we look at, again, the story of Cain and Abel, and we say, yeah, so I believe this is a meta-truth. I believe that this story is resonant throughout cultures. That is all Trinitarian. I'm sure that there is in some way, the story was put in here for the reason, right? To tell us about, you know, fights between brothers. But also, you can't say I do know or I don't know that this story is false or true in an ontological, historical sense, as a historical fact. Were there two people like that were specifically referenced?
Okay, I don't think that's knowable, but I'm not sure why it matters to you.
So the reason why it matters to me is because we need to know how we should interpret the things that the Bible says. And the
Many
things,
ways.
Right, but like if we interpret...
Sometimes poetry, sometimes history, sometimes fact,
But for
sometimes
example,
metaphor.
the reason why it's important, right, very important, is because, for example, we can talk about something like God says, I believe it's like 1 Corinthians 15, 17, something about how belief in God specifically as someone who resurrected or as someone who died for our sins is important, right? But we have to look at, if we can interpret that as just like, you have to believe that God is a symbol of sacrifice. That is different from believing that there was an actual person named Jesus Christ who died on the cross for our sins.
True.
So if you believe one and not the other, that can be the difference between you going to hell and you going to heaven. So if we cannot make, like, we cannot say that we know whether or not certain historical facts in the Bible happen, like even as just like events, like because events matter, because again, God dying for our sins on the cross was an event. If we can't say that we know these things happen, these things did or didn't happen, this then leads us to kind of like the conundrum of how do we know what we are meant to believe, what the Bible intended for us to believe, and this can be very, very important to like our fate. Do you see what I'm saying?
I've got no disagreement with any of that. What sort of response do you want from that? You pushed me beyond the limits of my knowledge.
Really?
Well, there's so many things you can't know. I'm struggling. I know that the biblical stories are the foundation of Western culture. I know that the consequence of those stories has been the genesis of a society that is in the main freer and more abundant than any societies have ever been. I don't exactly understand the relationship between those stories and that outcome, but it's not nothing.
Right.
But I don't know the answer to the questions that you're asking. You know, it's the case that forever when people have been interpreting religious stories, they wrestled with exactly the question that you just described.
Funny thing.
When is it fact? When is it poetry? When is it music? When is it metaphor? When is it ritual? When is it time-bound?
But what I'm saying is that your interpretation of the Bible, if you cannot tell us, again, if these historical events happened or not, that can be the deciding factor in if someone is like damned to hell for eternity or if they go to heaven, right? So that's why
I don't concern myself so much with that particular question. You know, like that would be something that would stem more from an evangelical viewpoint. And I'm not putting that down, by the way. I don't you're asking me a question I really can't answer.
Okay.
I'm not claiming even that my interpretations are canonically correct. I can only tell you the consequences of having released them into the world, let's say.
Right. So I guess we've kind of come to a conclusion about that, which I've kind of
I think if you think about it well enough, you will realize that this whole this whole debate is just completely useless. Like, a lot of things were said, but at the end of the day, if you put it all together, oof, nothing is there. It just implodes into nothing.
wrestled with your framework and pushed it kind of to its end, at least in the way that you can answer my question. So I don't know that we can more wrestle with
That's how
that.
most
See, I
debates
guess the
are.
problem is, you see, I don't exactly understand, I don't think anybody does, the relationship between fact and destiny. You know, well, they're different realms in a way, because knowing what the world is made of doesn't help you navigate through it. Not really. It doesn't provide you with a foundation for navigation. But knowing the facts of the world is obviously useful. And the relationship between those two things, part of that's the mystery of Western civilization and the continued competition between science and religion.
To bridge this kind of understanding between fact and destiny is like an important question that the burden is on Christianity to answer, and specifically interpretations of Christianity. And if we can't do that,
Why is the burden on Christianity?
because it posits, right, that this interpretation, right, is going to be a way to understand God. But if it's faulty, right, that can
What
again,
evidence would you what evidence would you accept?
that would be an interesting question, because I've seen people try to answer the question, and I've never really been moved, because I can always attack, and then again kind of gets to this point where the answer is I don't know.
Well, here's an
Okay,
answer.
let's pause there. I'm sorry, that's time.
All right. Well, thank you so much for the rest.
Well, I definitely picked the right person.
Thank you.
That was very good.
Thank you so
Really,
much.
very good. I don't like talking to win, but there were portions of all the conversations that were truly productive, and that it's instructive for people to see the distinction between a debate that's aimed at local victory and dominance, let's say, even of ideas, and a discussion that's predicated on mutual exploration and establishment of like a harmonious understanding and peace.
Jordan Peterson, out of all of the kind of theists that are on the internet, he is one of the better ones in regards to just like being genuine as a person. But I do feel like he does a lot of, I guess, wordplay that can make it a little bit difficult, and kind of just muddies the waters in regard to what we define as Christianity and atheism.
Jordan Peterson, I credit to turning me into an atheist. I had a blast talking to him today. I think if the average person followed what Jordan Peterson said, they'd realize that fundamentally Jordan Peterson is not a Christian, in fact, uses many atheistic principles, and operated under bad faith by seeming to forget what basic words meant when he didn't want to answer a question.
His definitions can kind of shift a little bit depending on the moment, and I think that he wasn't afraid to flex that definitional muscle.
And I felt really good about our conversation. I thought that it highlighted some key issues in Jordan Peterson's theology. I hope he reflects on these issues and maybe deepens his perspective on them in the future.
With Zena, she was able to build up such a rapport that he chose her in the end, and they were able to have an extended dialogue, which is something I had hoped for. So maybe I learned a little something from Zena about being more cordial.
It's extraordinarily useful to be able to model productive debate and conversation for people and see how my thoughts were landing with people who are particularly skeptical.
Marks the end of the stream video. This and John Peterson does hold a lot of fantastical belief, and he not very, not I don't know, it doesn't make sense to say a lot of things just to talk about it, pointless to debate about it. He is honest sometimes, but those are the time you realize anybody order. Yeah, but yeah, he most of the time, whenever he felt like somebody is going to attack him, he got very dishonest about everything else, and they don't want to talk. I guess that's all. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed. I hope you had a good time, and I hope it felt nice. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.